I am Rex Halafihi. My birth name is David or Devita. I am Tongan and Eastern European. I'm a fourth year student at San Francisco State University, and I have been queer for as long as I can remember, and I use all pronouns.
My full name is Derrick Camuela Cabral. I am half Native Hawaiian, half Portuguese, and I've been queer for as long as I could remember.
I remember meeting Derrick at a summer camp in Rossmore Park in Southern California, and it wasn't until sixth grade that we started sharing like the same school space and being in the same like educational institutions.
We had a lot different experiences. Both of us were discovering our queer identities, but I didn't even know what being gay was. I just acted as me, and I was harassed pretty intensely, but Rex introduced me to so many different aspects of queer culture and also different things with racial inequalities and stuff. He's the one who introduced me to ethnic studies before I even came to SF State. He had me checking myself and respecting my privileges and understanding them before I even was introduced to it in school, and I owe him so much for that, for helping create the PI Studies department at school and giving me a space to learn about my culture and being the friend that I would always need, and even giving me a family support system and everything that I was lacking.
A self-defense mechanism that I created, and I think a lot of queer people create, is you're a vulnerable target, so you make yourself not vulnerable by projecting. When I came to state, prior to that, I was getting involved with a lot of queer person of color coalitions and organizing, and I wasn't fulfilled in the ways that I needed to be from those because they're very broad, very overarching, very unspecific. And I saw that we had a College of Ethnic Studies. I was super excited, but I didn't see anyone in the college that represented people from my community. I think the problem with not only not being represented is that I think people are confused about who Pacific Islanders are and where we come from. You see it on maps all the time that we're chartographically erased, when we privilege geographies that focus on land rather than ocean. And that goes back to Pele Alpha's seminal work, Our Sea of Islands, is that, we're a network of people, we're a network of communities that migrate, that move, that are in conversation with one another, and we are not an elective within Asian American studies. That really goes into, I guess, why my relationship to Derrick is so important, is because it represents a larger ancestral trend to know each other, to build with one another, to create community with one another. But that type of shit, whether you recognize it or not, is so important to your self-development.
Being able to have at least some sense of community at such a young age, I had no real sense of community. As far as being queer goes, it was just you, and even my parents had to move to California because my dad went to prison, and I was completely stripped of almost every little bit of culture that I could have possibly gotten. I didn't get to see what it was like to be Hawaiian or to know Hawaii and know about my ancestors, just the small stories she would know. And then meeting you, we were able to discover our own truths and really find out what it means to be who we are with the help of each other, even though we're different.
One of the biggest issues in the Pacific Islander communities is that we are fundamentally invisibilized and erased, and we have very small representation. But it's important that even within the representation that we do get and the representation that we continue to make, that we are showing that we are multifaceted, that our cultures are dynamic and change over time, that Pacific Islanders don't look or act in one way, and that there's no such thing really as authenticity. Moving forward, we need more representations of mixed Pacific Islanders, queer Pacific Islanders, trans Pacific Islanders, because our communities have always been queer, always been trans, always been mixed. That's another great part about queer families is a lot of the time they're chosen, a lot of the time they're found, and I think that we should also honor family structures that not necessarily look like the cultural family structures that we know. It's important that Pacific Islander communities themselves take up the struggle to create resources for and by us. The way that the API model of organizing happens is that it creates this narrative to Pacific Islanders often that this is the only avenue that we can pursue in order to address our community issues, and I really don't think that's the case. And I think that we have all the power, all the resources, if not all the resources, shared resources to really address fundamental issues within our communities on our own terms.